All right, the Supreme Court playing a key role in the second Trump administration on everything from deportations to DOJ-related firings, tariffs, and more. Democrats are complaining the 6-3 conservative majority is always siding with President Trump now, but one of the newest appointees to the bench says, check her record. Justice Amy Coney Barrett recently sat down for an interview with USA Today Supreme Court reporter Maureen Groppe, and we are happy to have Maureen with us this morning. Rare chance to spend an hour with Justice Barrett. So what are some of your big takeaways from your talk with her, your interview?
Yeah, you're right. It is very rare to get to have an on-the-record conversation with a Supreme Court justice. And myself and my bureau chief, Susan Page, we got an hour with her. She's promoting her book that's out today, Listening to the Law, in which she is trying to explain to non-lawyers how the Supreme Court works and hopefully try to persuade some Americans that the way the justices make their decision is that they base it on the law, not on their personal preference or on the based on the politics, their politics or the politics of the president who who nominated them. We got a chance to ask her about that, about the public's perception of the court, but also a lot of personal things as well about her adjustment to the court, about what she felt like she's given up. And one thing that struck both of us is that she doesn't say, if you ask her, do you like, she's been on the Supreme Court for nearly 5 years, and you say, do you like your job? She doesn't say yes to that. She says she doesn't regret her choice, but she's also keenly aware of some of the things that she doesn't like about the job, particularly the public scrutiny, the loss of being a public figure, the loss of privacy, the constant security. And at one point in the interview with us, she says all that makes it kind of lonely. So that was an interesting perspective at a time when these justices are getting an extra amount of scrutiny.
Maureen, it was fascinating. I mean, as you say, it's rare that we get this window into their thinking, and particularly Amy Coney Barrett, because she's been an enigma, to use the word of the day, basically to so many people. So let's talk about that. That she basically tells you that her decisions are not colored by preferences or politics. But what does her record suggest about that? And in particular, one of the things that I was so struck by was that in interviews, she talks about how her worldview is shaped by being a working mom of 7, including raising a child with Down syndrome, and that does color her questions in some of these court cases and some of her decisions. So I guess it's impossible to divorce your personal life experience from decisions. So how did she square that?
Yeah. So what she said about that when she's of course the first mother of first mother of school-age children to be on the court. And we asked about what that does, what difference that makes. And she wanted to be very clear that she doesn't think being a mother or being a woman makes a difference in terms of the law, but it does give you a perspective in terms of knowing which questions to ask. And an example of that is in January, the court heard oral arguments in a challenge to a law in Texas that there was a requirement that pornographic websites had to have age verification for users. And one of the issues in that case was, well, are there other alternatives to that would allow parents to block this kind of content for minors that wouldn't have the same First Amendment implications for adults? And during the oral arguments, when the attorney that was challenging the law was trying to make that argument, she immediately interrupted him and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And she was saying, as a mother of 7, she knows how hard it is to actually do that, to keep up with how you can block or filter that content. And so she said, well, that was an example of how her experience helped her know what questions to ask, the way other justices, their own experience. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, for example, she was a trial judge. So if there are questions, there's a question that involves trial issues that Justice Sotomayor might have an expertise in that area. And she, in this case, knew what questions to ask. You mentioned that her youngest son has Down syndrome. So she's familiar with some of the special education issues that can come up before the court. And she also, in terms of her son, said that she thinks that any parent of special needs, you develop there's some compassion that comes with that, and the way you see people because of that experience. But again, she emphasized that those experiences, being a mother, more help keep her grounded rather than that they affect how she might vote on a particular issue.
Huh. Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, Maureen, thank you for sharing all of this and sharing all of your reporting with us. This was a really fascinating sit down.
Thank you.